Hello, welcome to Sci-Fi Christian Game of Thrones Reviews. I'm Ben Bono.
And I'm Ben Kirkwald.
No Emily this week. She's actually at the hospital giving birth right now.
Yep.
No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. Ben's not the worst person who ever lived. But, you know, back in the day when men weren't allowed in the delivery room, I mean, you might as well just...
You might as well wait at home
Exactly.
and just, watch Game of Thrones, right?
Ah, the good old days. No, I'm only kidding. So anyway, here we are, episode 8 of the season, Hardhome. You know, we're used to episode 9 being the big one. Maybe not this year, though. I think there are still some big things coming. Episode 8.
This was...
Yeah, lots happened this week.
Yeah.
You know, and obviously a lot of the focus is going to be on the last 30 minutes of this episode.
Straight 30 minutes.
Yeah, it kind of felt, I don't know if it felt like this to you, but it felt like, you know what they've done a couple times, like Blackwater, where it's in one location. It felt like they did that in miniature.
Yes.
Yeah. They did that with the wall last year when the wildlings attacked the wall, right?
Right.
Yeah, and that I didn't feel like was as successful, so I felt like this was a better version of that. Like, this wouldn't have been as good if they stretched this, if they made this one episode.
Right.
But by making it half an episode, it was very successful.
Right. I think they've kind of fallen into rhythm here in season 5.
5. Mm-hmm. But even more than that, I mean, a lot happened. But before we go to all of that, you brought the beer tonight. What do we have? I haven't even tasted it yet.
I haven't either. This is from Castle Danger Brewery.
All right.
That was actually a fun fact. That's where Emily and I went on our first hike with Superior Hiking Trail. So we went there, and this is the Double Crossing IPA.
Yeah.
So 9.1%. It's from Two Harbors, Minnesota, brewed out of there.
So if you don't live in Minnesota, you're probably screwed for getting it. But
yeah,
that's your loss.
Sorry.
That's tasty.
We'll let you know.
Yeah, this is good. Very, very tasty.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Lots of flavor.
Yeah. There's been lots of good things coming out of Two Harbors about this brewery.
Yeah, this feels like, you know, for an IPA, it doesn't have too intense of the hop bitterness. It has a lot of hop flavor in it. So, if you like the flavor of hops but are a little wary of the bitterness, and you live in Minnesota,
right,
check it out. Otherwise,
right. If you like your, this is like an after boil hop almost.
Yeah, put it at the end or whatever. Yeah, and then we were also, while we were watching the show, we were drinking my Belgian Strong.
Which is amazing.
And amazingly strong.
Yeah, well, that too. No, I really like it. I know you're going to try and improve upon it a little bit. Get it up to, I don't know, like brewery quality, but...
Yeah, so I did a double batch of this one when I brewed it back in November. And so I saved 5 gallons to age 6 months, 5 gallons for a year.
Yep. So
this was the 6-month one, and I liked it. I think what I'm going to do for the year one is I'm going to dry hop it a little bit before I keg that one. But yeah, I mean, I'm really pleased with it. Nothing worse than aging something for a long time and having it suck. Yeah. So, or at the very least, it's going to get you smashed. So there's some virtue in that at least. Yeah. But no, I mean, what I enjoyed about it, not that I'm patting myself on the back too much, but is that I like high ABV beers, but I don't like them if you really feel every last percentage of that ABV. I like beers that kind of hide it a little bit. And bring out the flavor of that malt and the higher alcohol without making it feel like you got hit by a freight train.
Right.
And not to say this one doesn't catch up with you, it does, but at least for me, while I'm drinking it, I don't really notice.
Right. Well, it's one and the same for me. The bitterness at the end really kills me on a high ABV beer, where it's like, I feel like you're sucking on a lemon towards the end, and it's not as enjoyable then, but this one doesn't have it. It's very smooth all the way through.
Mm-hmm. And we're smoking Old Shenandoah barrel number 76, but not for much longer.
I don't think we got another bowl out of this.
Yeah, so then we have early day from Villager 1888.
Yeah.
I was just saying to you, I haven't smoked in like almost 2 weeks right now, and so, I made the mistake when I went to the doctor like a couple months ago for my physical of mentioning, I was honest, and I said I smoke a pipe a couple times a week, and now I keep getting these damn emails from them like, here's a program to quit smoking and everything. It's, well, I'm not actually addicted to it. Like, I can just not smoke for 2 weeks and have no withdrawal, so I'm kind of annoyed with my doctor about that, but what are you going to do?
Well, there you go.
Yeah. The moral of the story, kids, is if you're smoking a pipe, lie to the doctor. It's not worth it.
Yeah, just lie to everyone. That's great. Good morals for everyone. That's awful.
Well, speaking of good morals, let's get to Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
That's for a segue.
So what, you want to start with the show starts here or start in Marine?
Yeah.
So, my kids always do this thing in class. Awkward, silent.
Right. Yeah, that was great.
And,
this is just the first 10 seconds or so.
Yeah, it's like, that's how it felt. But, God, so we watched Tyrion do his little song and dance here.
Yeah.
I don't know, 3, 4 times now for different people.
Mm-hmm.
Where he's gonna be killed or whatever, and then he works his way into their good graces, and it's never with bad intentions. He always, most of the time he's willing to build the person up, which is hopefully the same in this situation, but it's just, my God, he is good at it. It reminded me of, I watched a show, How I Met Your Mother, and it reminded me of the pickup lines that the guy used to use, and he used to be like, no, you have to do this. Make sure that you use their name often, and make sure that you do this, and make sure that you do that. And it's like, he's doing all these things, and I don't know if it's because it's the 3rd or 4th time we watched him do them, but he's really, really good at it. At this point.
Is.
Like,
he is.
And it's nice that we can see that now. Like, we're watching the wheels turn, and I feel like I know what he's going to say next. And it's like, yeah, that's what you should say, because that's going to make her think this.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And one of the things I really liked about both his conversations with her is that he doesn't trust her at once. His position is basically, I have nothing to lose, because if you're not the real deal, as he says, I'd given up on life anyway. I'm willing to just let you kill me if you're not it. I'm not going to sign on board with somebody who's just going to be crazy or evil or anything. Right. So he really kind of puts her on her toes too, and makes Dany prove herself to him, and it's great. I mean, like you said last week, I've been waiting for Tyrion and Dany to meet up now for 13 years since I first started reading the books. So this was awesome.
Right. And even after, I've been waiting for it all week, I guess. I mean, I never really had even thought about it since I read book 5. Well, I read it last summer, and I read it the summer before, so 2 years in a row here. I should make it 3.
Yeah.
But it's exactly how I thought it would go down, I guess. I mean, maybe different circumstances based on where the book went to how much they jumped over, but
absolutely,
pretty much the same thing.
Yeah. Maybe that's the only thing that it felt off to me. And we'll see what they do with it. And I'm not going to spoil anything, because I think some of those plot points from the book are still upcoming with Dany.
Yeah.
But it felt like this conversation would have been much more meaningful on the other side of where Dany winds up at the end of book 5.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll punt on that issue for now, because I don't want to give anything away.
Right.
Poor Jorah,
Yeah.
just back to square one.
I bought you a gift. Now you're banished. And you can't disagree with anything that Tyrion said about him.
Mm-hmm.
He's been the loyalest person to you. He made one mistake, but his mistake was so costly to everything that you were doing.
Right.
That you cannot be associated with him. You don't kill him, but you cannot be associated with him. And what a burden to bear. Especially after, you think about his life before.
Yeah.
He was a slaver, not by unintentionally a slaver, kind of, sort of. He had to do it to kind of live, I think. The family.
He was trying to, it was for his wife. He was trying to woo her, and make her happy. It was with good intentions, you might say.
Right.
And not that, slavery with good intentions is the best thing in the world, but still.
Right. I mean, in his case, it was.
Yeah.
But it's just everything. He's just doing it with the best of intentions, and he's trying to... And then the one time he tried to hedge his bets.
Yep.
Backfired.
Yep. I felt that this dialogue, Tyrion and Dany, really showed that Tyrion is a good man. Because the easiest course would have been to just have him tell her, screw Jorah, he betrayed you, you should kill him.
Right.
And he went out of his way to make a case for he knew he couldn't sell her on keep him around.
Right.
But he made the case to don't kill him either. And so his next plan is to do the same thing, except at the Great Fighting Pit. So we'll see how that works.
Right. This second time's the charm?
Yeah, exactly. I love the conversation about, Starks, Lannisters, Baratheons are all spokes on a wheel. You can't stop the wheel. I'm going to break the wheel. That was great. Yeah.
That whole conversation I just felt was just... It's one of those epic conversations. I mean, going back to Varys and Littlefinger's conversation in front of the Iron Throne, even, I think there are very few conversations between two characters that are just so meaningful and just so prolific. And I feel like this is one of them where it's... This was a big picture conversation. This was not, what do we do next conversation. This was long-term, 20, 30-year conversation. Mm-hmm. And that's the same with that Varys Littlefinger conversation. And I don't know if there's really been another epic conversation. There's been plenty of epic monologues.
Yeah.
But...
No, Varys and Littlefinger, are two characters who think that way.
Right.
Yeah. And one thing I liked about this conversation, too, is that it's one of those subtle moments that makes you maybe rethink the Starks a little bit, because within the context of this conversation, the Starks aren't the good guys of Westeros. They're just one more part of the problem.
It's interesting because they haven't held a position of high power. I mean, they haven't been king or queen for a very long time. Mm-hmm. And yet they are still part of the problem, whether or not that's interesting.
It's one of those subversive moments that I think the book does even better, but the show does an okay job at it, just making you kind of rethink. Okay, we're seeing a small slice of the story from a limited number of characters, but take the world as a whole. Are these really the good guys? Especially from Dany's perspective. She knows her father was insane, the Mad King Aerys, but yet was the Starks, Ned and Robert were the two who overthrew her father. They're the reason House Targaryen doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
So, from her perspective, the Starks are part of the problem. I love that whole conversation with Tyrion and Dany.
I was just going to say that this, it's not all black and white, and I was going to say it should be gray.
Right.
And then I said, well, it's like 50 Shades of Gray.
That's right. It is like 50 Shades of Gray.
That's the only...
But not
at all. No.
Not even remotely.
No, just the title of the book is really the only thing that you could associate with this storyline.
There you go. Another part of the episode I loved. Let's talk about Winterfell. I mean, there's a few other places, but man, I love the conversation between Sansa and Theon. That was wonderful. Mm-hmm.
We finally get to see Sansa act a little. She actually gets to be outraged for once in her characters. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. This may be the first time that it's not like a bratty outrage. She was bratty earlier. But now this is I'm for real pissed at you. This is not okay kind of a conversation. And she actually gets something out of Theon or Reek, which is shocking to me, I guess. I mean, I didn't think that he would spill the beans like that. Clearly, he still has some sort of allegiance to the Starks at this point with bearing that news.
Yeah.
I don't know, I really liked that. I really thought that it was good, and if you watch the little thing at the end of the episode, they did bring up how Sansa's hope was flittering with this whole, I'm in a crappy marriage, I'm the last Stark, whatever, but now there's 2 more out there.
Right.
You know, and okay, well, if there's 2 more out there, then I can get through this and I can find them, and now she's got this new mission in life, and I think I hope that we're really going to see that in the next couple episodes.
And it's one of the few, maybe the only moment in her character where she really is in the driver's seat as the character. You know, she's constantly at the mercy of whoever else, you know, whether it's Cersei or Joffrey or, you know, the Hound or any of the other Ramsay, obviously, and the number of people, Littlefinger, who have been in control of her at various times. And here, this is one of the few times we've seen her truly take control of a situation. Which again goes back to one of the things we talked about last time. That just makes the claims that her storyline is some kind of anti-feminist creed is absurd. It's precisely the opposite from my perspective.
I feel like we're finding a woman at the time where she's finding her voice.
Exactly.
And that's where we're falling into this storyline. And so, I don't know, maybe to some people it feels a little anti-feminist because she doesn't have her voice yet, but she's clearly starting to find it.
Yeah.
And when she does find it for real, I hope that we're going to be completely satisfied with
Well, I think the people who are upset, you know, are people who, and you find this in all left, right, center, any agenda that you want, are people who want their position portrayed, but they want it portrayed in a simplistic, very straightforward sort of way. And Game of Thrones isn't that type of show. Right. And so, yes, I strongly believe that Sansa's storyline is highly feminist from that perspective. This is a woman who's finding her voice, but it's not in a I am woman, hear me roar, straightforward, simplistic type of way. It's through horror and through pain and through this long series of just horrific events that she is starting to then rise above that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I just, you know, I'm very disappointed in much of the critical reviews I read this last week of last week's episode, the failure to see that and the response to just kind of, to some of the outrage that's been out there, to just kind of cow underneath that and say, oh yeah, it's so horrible, it's so horrible. No, let's wait to see how this is a complex story. Let's wait and see how it develops. And it certainly seems to be developing in a way that is giving the lie to many of the criticisms out there.
Yeah.
Alright, so then we see the War Council, and Ramsay wants 20 good men.
Not in the books.
Well, yeah, I mean, you know, where Book 5 ends is just before the huge clash between Stannis and the Bolton
Yeah, but
forces.
this sounds like it's before the end of Book 5.
Yeah, so we're in the dark there as well. Nice little shout out to he wants to leave a feast for the crows.
Yeah, that was good. I did enjoy that line. I was like, yeah.
It's like, you know, I always kind of pause and say, it's a little cheesy, but hey, you earned it. Good job.
Right.
So
you know, I think at that point we see him and how he's not a long-term thinker.
Yeah.
I feel like maybe that's part of this episode too, is thinking long-term.
Right.
With things, and he doesn't.
Yeah.
He's clearly, well, let's just crush them, and it's like, and his dad comes, and it's like, well, we can't do that. Why would you give up this defensive position to go out and probably crush them?
Right.
But probably is a lot less certain than certainly.
Right.
When we're just staying behind this wall and nobody dies, when for sure we're going to have some casualties on the out, and he just doesn't care. Human life to him just does not matter as long as it's not his.
Right.
I don't even know that his matters. I guess we've never seen him in a situation where he feels that threatened.
That's true. I do hope that whatever happens here, we don't see him die in battle, because if ever there was a character who deserved a much more horrific end than that, it is Ramsay.
Yeah. Even more so than John. I think, I don't know. You know, maybe it's just because Joffrey is a glimmering light far in the distance now, but really feels like this guy's worse.
Yeah.
Now, is that George R. R. Martin's intention, is to just bring along somebody worse?
Right.
Every time.
Well, let's hope he doesn't die too soon. We don't need Ramsay to be
He can die in the
upstage.
last book. He can die in the last book. That's fine. Don't need anybody worse than him.
Yeah. Anything else at Winterfell?
No.
All right, Cersei. She's in the cell.
You know, she's doing an amazing... The actress is doing an amazing job with this.
I agree.
Just playing it to a T. I know earlier this season I was razzing them up. I mean, I was just not happy with the way that they were portraying her. But they took it in a different direction, a much abbreviated... I guess I don't enjoy the abbreviation to get to this point, but now that we're here, she's doing an absolutely fantastic job. She gets the visit from Qyburn, sorry.
Yep.
Qyburn. What's wrong with me? And he is offering, I don't know, he appears to be still loyal.
Yes.
He still sees some merit in keeping this relationship. And he has something in store for her. It's not quite ready, I believe, were his words, or
no, the exact line you need to seize upon, and we won't expound it further because this is one of the last hurrahs for book readers where we actually know what the clues mean and what's coming. So we get to revel in that for a few more episodes. But his exact line is, "The work continues."
Oh yes, okay.
And yeah, one of the final few instances where we know what's coming and the rest of you don't.
At the end of this season, we won't know anything else.
But it is a good indication that, assuming they do get there through the season, at the end of the season, there's some very good stuff in store in the last 2 episodes. Uncle Kevin is back as the Hand of the King.
Coming, yeah.
Yep.
Very quick trip from Lannisport to... Or no, not Lannisport.
Castle
Rock to to King's Landing there. And
which also seems to be setting up another thing from the books that we know about.
Thank God.
Yep.
And I don't know what else. I mean, fantastic acting is all you can really say. I mean, I really feel... You start to feel bad for Cersei at this point. Well, clearly we saw her hopefully her last attempts at trying to buy out the... It's weird because I think it's a Silent Sister, but she's not silent. Right. So I'm not sure how to take that.
No, the Silent Sisters are the ones who take care of the dead, so I get the feeling she's just whatever the...
She's a septon kind of a...
Yeah, something like that.
Or septa.
Right.
Sorry. Oh, jeez.
Just whatever the Westeros faith's version of a nun is, basically.
Right. And he tries to say, I'll give you whatever, and then tries to make her feel bad, like, I just visualize you dying, and then neither of those work. And I feel like she feels for the first time, possibly ever, that she's out of options.
Right. I know for sure that there's at least one major scene from the books of Cersei coming because I know that they filmed it. But yeah, there's some good stuff in store. I mean, there should be a lot of good moments in these last 2 episodes.
Right.
Arya, nothing too major, but we see her kind of progressing in the House of Black and White. I just love the atmosphere of the House of Black and White that every time we go there, it's just this creepy, kind of off-kilter air, and it felt like they captured that perfectly from the books.
You know, it was weird when we see, what's his face?
Jake and Hagar.
Yeah, talking to the hand, I forget her name too.
Yeah.
Whatever her name is, and she goes,
the other
she's
girl,
not ready, and he said, it doesn't matter to the many-faced God.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, it doesn't matter if she's ready or not to do whatever really, it doesn't matter. And so that line caught me off guard a little bit.
Right.
Because the character in the book who plays Jack Nagar is a little more certain than that about things that are happening.
Yeah, if it's even Jack Nagar in the book, which we don't know.
Even if it is, whoever it is, whatever, it is clearly not. I don't know. He's more certain, I guess. Mm-hmm. But that's fine. That's a minor change. I was glad that she is now selling her oysters again. Yeah. I was worried they were going to skip over that part, and it's like
no, they kind of circle around back to some of that. So yeah, that's good. So
that's good. They kind of left that face thing. It looked like she was going to put on a face at the end of the last time we saw her. Right. And then she's good.
That's a tricky one for TV, just because you don't want to lose the actress, which you kind of have to do if she starts changing faces. Yeah. So I don't know what they're going to do with that. If they'll just kind of punt on that issue.
They haven't really done anything in the books yet either. But.
Yeah. So we'll see with that. Yeah. And then at the wall, before we get up to Hardhome, we have Sam has a conversation with Ollie, who is a little angry.
Well, you can't blame him for being angry either. I mean, his whole family is killed by these people, by the exact person that John has now went with. Right. John, his mentor.
Johnny in Spain, yeah.
I mean, I can't even think of a real life example of that. It would be like, I don't even know.
It'd be like the U.S. making an alliance with Al Qaeda to fight some greater enemy.
Right. It would be, and it'd be like, no, you killed my husband or whatever. You can't, like, yeah. And so he's having a really hard time with it.
Yep.
He really is.
And I think that we both have an idea of where they're going with that story.
Yeah, I think so.
But we can't talk about that yet. Okay, Hardhome. Now there's one part of Hardhome that we want to discuss. I don't think it's major spoilers for anybody, because it is speculation. But just in case, we're going to put it at the end of this conversation. So just stay tuned.
First name, last name will say AA.
Yeah. So if you want to know more about that, it's more of a concern to book readers. In my opinion, a certain theory has been confirmed. We'll see, but we'll talk about the other things at Hardhome first. Yeah. And so if you don't want to hear even any of that speculation, I don't think it's really a spoiler, but just in case, we're going to put it at the end. Right. All right. So they get to Hardhome. The Lord of Bones does not want them there, but Tormund Jones.
That didn't last long, did it?
He takes care of that.
Well, that's the way you have to take care of it with the wildlings, though. I mean, that's the way to show dominance, is to just kill the other person. Right. And it's like, okay, well, he's dead, so we'll follow you.
That's the culture.
Right. And so, I don't know. They didn't probably. I thought he died in the books. I thought he died in the actual battle. Yeah. And so, that's fine that they brought him back and killed him anyways. Like, I guess I don't have a problem with that.
Nope. Alright, then we have the wildling meeting. Right. Should we stay or should we go?
Should I stay or should I
go? Yeah, exactly. Well, you should probably go.
You should probably go. By probably, I mean, you need to get the heck out of it.
Yeah, exactly. Because next we have the giant White Walker attack. Yeah.
You know what?
Very cool.
To go back to the meeting for a second, I really liked the way that they set it up, where they had all the different clan leaders there, and John had to give his little speech. I mean, it was very cliche. We knew exactly how it was going to go down. We knew all the lines and stuff, but it was still very, I don't know, I still liked it. I thought it was good.
No, it was fun.
And then, as soon as we're all shipping out, except for the Thens, because nobody likes the Thens, we learned that last season.
Even the Thens came around by the end of the episode.
Well, even the Thens were like, all right, let's go.
The issue kind of got forced, but
you know, you gotta do what you gotta do. So they I don't know, half, maybe less.
Yeah,
I'm not good with numbers. Me and Tormund are about the same with that. I don't know. I think there was about maybe 10,000 people, and they said they had 5,000 on the ships.
Yeah.
So
I don't know.
Let's call it half. Let's say they got half off before a huge fight breaks out.
Yeah.
And I must admit, I was kind of watching the clock, and I was like, God, we got a half hour left. What are we going to do for a half hour in this show still? And then the question was answered, and we just stuck around Hardhome.
Had a huge fight.
And they're pretty good about this in Game of Thrones. You don't know who's fighting who.
Yeah.
But in this episode, it was
very clear.
How do you know you were hitting with your sword? And just it's I don't know, maybe a little bit of a metaphor, but not really a pretty bad one if it is one. But just the fact that you don't even know who you're hitting because the dead people are in the same clothes that the live people are in, and it's just mass chaos for everybody. Yep. And so they try and save the dragon glass.
Mm-hmm. That doesn't go well.
Thank God there's a giant to at least help out a little bit.
Yeah, the giant was great.
Yeah, and it looks like the giant can't really be... I don't know if it's because he's so big. He seemed to have like 5 or 6 of them on his back at one time.
No, he just headed out to sea.
I know. Well, yeah.
Screw this.
I know, whatever. But we get to the really big scene where we finally get to see a White Walker for the first time since Sam has fought one. Yeah. And that was in beginning of season 4? Or season 3?
It might have been last year or the end of season 3.
It was one of the two. It was a long time ago. And we finally get to see one again. And they're just as badass as they were. Exactly.
So John kills the one with the Valyrian steel, which is an interesting point that might factor into our discussion in a few moments. It was interesting seeing... I have a reputation on the Sci-Fi Christian on the podcast for hating action scenes, and I normally do because so many modern action movies are just so boring when you get to the scenes. Like, I don't care. I don't want to watch any more CGI. Kill each other scenes. But it's like when you earn it as a show or as a story, it means so much. And that was the case here. Like, this show earned that scene. And that's why it was so effective to watch this unfold. It's so many great moments in here. I love the moment where all the dead, zombie guys are they jump off the cliff. Right. It's like, what, did they all just commit suicide? No, they didn't.
I thought they might have for a second. Yeah. Nope, they just get up and go.
That was great. And then, the Night Kings, come at me for a moment where he just resurrects them all. It was,
that was...
Holy crap!
Hardhome is not shown in the book at all.
Mm-hmm.
In the book, somebody sails past on a boat and is like, something happened there. We don't know what, but we ain't going there ever again. And to be able to see that as a book reader is really cool.
It is.
Because that's a moment that happened in the books. Like, I'm pretty sure George R. R. Martin I hope that he watched this episode with Hardhome and went, yep, that's about how I envisioned it.
Yeah.
Because that's how, looking back on the
just a massacre.
Just a massacre of everything. Yeah. Except for, instead of people getting off on ships, nobody got off.
Yeah. And that effectively eliminates the presence of wildlings in the north outside of, whatever straggling bands are out there.
Right. That was it. They were coming there. Yeah. Now, Emily brought up a good point before she left, because she did come and watch the episode with us before she went to the hospital.
That's right.
And she asked if they could go into the water. And my answer was, I'm sure they could, but for the effect of this scene to take place, they just couldn't.
Yeah, I don't know.
And I don't know that there's any... I don't think there's been anything that says that they can or can't do anything.
Yeah. We don't know what the rules are there.
They don't really like fire. When the White Walker walked in, the fire died down around him, but...
Yeah.
they're made of ice. That kind of happens around fire, so...
Right.
I don't really know that played a factor. I don't know that water. I don't know. We don't know.
All right. Let's have our maybe spoiler, maybe not conversation. And if you are only a show watcher, I don't think you're going to be spoiled, but if you absolutely want to make sure, you can turn off now. This will be the last thing we talk about.
Right.
All right, so...
Azor Ahai.
Azor Ahai, yeah.
Yeah, Azor Ahai, whatever.
So in the show, or in the books, there's this whole prophecy of this guy named Azor Ahai, who is the prince who was promised, who he's supposed to be a legendary hero who the last time the White Walkers showed up, he defeated them and everything, and it's prophesied that when they come back, he'll come back. And this is why Melisandre is so intent on Stannis, because she believes that he is Azor Ahai reborn.
But they haven't mentioned that in the show at all.
They haven't.
I mean, it's bugged the living daylights out of me since.
Right, because it's such a huge point of why is Melisandre so fixated on Stannis.
Right. I really
okay.
Yeah.
So, in my opinion, what we saw here all but confirms that Jon is either Azor Ahai reborn or is at least a part of Azor Ahai reborn. There may be a multiple Azor Ahais. That's the other opinion. So anyway, these are the excerpts from the book. There's 2 different excerpts that talk about the prophecies of Azor Ahai.
All right, let's hear them.
All right. So it says, there will come a day after a long summer, which is when the show is set, after a long summer, when the stars bleed and the cold breath of darkness falls heavy on the world.
So I think we have the stars bleeding with the comet a few years back.
Right. So essentially, I think those 2 lines, pretty obvious, that's just the setting of the story.
Right.
Okay? Everyone agrees on this. In this hour, a warrior shall draw from the fire a burning sword, and that sword shall be Lightbringer, the red sword of heroes, and he who clasps it shall be Azor Ahai come again, and the darkness shall flee before him. Okay, that's number 1. Number 2, and when the red star bleeds, that was the whole comet thing, which is more in the books than in the show. But I think a little bit in the show. And
show, that's how season 2 opens.
Yeah, and the darkness gathers, Azor Ahai shall be born again, amidst smoke and salt to wake dragons out of stone. Okay, the first one, let's just ignore the part about smoke and salt and waking dragons for a second.
Okay. Just 1 second.
Yeah. I mean, to me, seeing Jon do that with his Valyrian, long claw, he's got this Valyrian steel sword that shatters the White Walker. It's like, whoa, that was right into the Azor Ahai prophecy. Right there.
Yeah, but Dragon Glass and Valyrian steel are the only 2 things.
Yeah, but they really played it up in the show. It's like, that was like, whoa, his sword works like everyone else's was being shattered.
Yeah, but his is made of Valyrian steel. I'm just trying to be
true. That's true. Yeah, no,
I mean, I really want you to be right here, but I mean, his is the only sword made of Valyrian steel because there's like 12 of them left in the world.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a lot left of them, so I don't know that really points out that he's that.
But he's the one who's doing it. I mean, he's the one who has the Valyrian steel sword fighting the White Walkers.
Right. And it's after a long summer, and he's the only one who has one.
Yeah.
So it does make sense. Now, in the books, it's not a spoiler, I guess, but in the books...
Well, we're in the spoiler section. So yeah, I mean, we've read books 5.
Well, yeah, but you told people that...
Okay, fine, yeah.
I mean...
If there's anything... I mean, I think we're pretty much past...
Well, let's talk about how Stannis becomes Azor Ahai.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so there's a Dragon Mount, which is his castle.
Right.
There's these stone dragons, and Melisandre believes that Stannis can awaken the stone dragons and make them real.
But he also, burns a sword in the fire.
Right.
And it comes out and it glows, and it does glow. Like, his sword right now should be glowing a yellow/reddish color constantly.
But it's
takes out of its skin. But it doesn't appear to be made of fire, as in the prophecy. It appears to be made of magic.
And in the books, I think there's a heavy implication that that's kind of some of Melisandre's trickery going on there.
Yes, there is.
She's trying to play it up. Now, the second part there, though, of awakening dragons out of stone, I mean, that to me is almost definitively Dany. So, if we say Azor Ahai is one person, I think that we'd still have to go Dany. But remember, the books are not called Game of Thrones. The books are called A Song of Ice and Fire.
Right.
Okay? So, if we extrapolate that and say that A Song of Ice and Fire refers to Azor Ahai, which is not a dumb theory in terms of the books.
Right.
Well, Azor Ahai is two people. You know, one half of him is in Danny. He's the fire, obviously, awakening the stone dragons, and one half is Jon with his sword cutting down the White Walkers. And it's going to take both of them to defeat it. And that, in my mind, is where the story is going. Now, there are some bumps along the road that we know about that we can't talk about yet. But
still doable.
I just think that the way they portray, even though they haven't mentioned Azor Ahai in the show, like you talked about, the way they went to such lengths to show that every sword is breaking against the White Walkers, and then Jon takes out his, and it doesn't. And they made a huge point of that tonight.
Well, they brought it, I mean, clearly all of it has been everything since the first episode. They brought up Dragonglass, and they brought up Dragonglass every episode since then.
Yep.
And so it does, like, Dragonglass is the only thing that can defeat this. Like, Dragonglass is this, Dragonglass is that, and then blah, 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 blah. Then we get to here, and all of a sudden the Valyrian Steel also does it. It just...
Yeah. So to me, given that the showrunners know where the books are going, even though they haven't made a big deal out of Azor Ahai, I think it's there implicitly. And I think implicitly in my mind, what they showed tonight and the way that they showed it confirms that Jon is at least part of the fulfillment of that prophecy.
Right. And I don't think that they're ever going to mention that in the show.
Probably not. Probably not.
But because it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It matters to book readers just because...
No, it's implicit in the show. It's explicit in the books.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So, we'll see.
We'll see.
But I think if you are a book reader, that is something to pay attention to.
Right. I don't think I would vote him guilty of being Azor Ahai. I don't think that there's beyond a shadow of a doubt evidence here.
I'm convinced.
I mean, I knew that he was before the before the season started. After you read book 5, you feel pretty confident about it. But even though none of this has happened, you still...
There is one part of the Jon prophecy, or the Azor Ahai prophecy, that could fit with Jon that we can't talk about yet. I'll mention that after.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, all right. So much for that. Any final thoughts on Hardhome?
Great episode. Great episode. You know, this is the one where we've been putting all these puzzle pieces on the board, and it's like, I don't see where this is going for 3 episodes now. And all of a sudden it's like, that all had to happen in order for us to feel this way during this episode.
Yeah, I mean, people are like, this season, nothing's happening. It's so boring. Yeah, I mean, come on.
It's a whole season. Talk about the end of the season.
Exactly. And frankly, as a book reader, and like I said, who's been reading books for almost a decade and a half, I got no patience for that attitude because, damn it, I've been waiting forever. So
you only wait 10 weeks.
Off. Exactly. If you guys can't be patient for you're going to get more next week.
Right. Just everybody calm down.
And... frankly, you're going to get more next April.
Right.
So there's no guarantee for me as a book reader that I'm going to even get that. So, you know what? Just piss off with your, it's so slow. I don't care. You whiny bastards. Alright, so great episode. 2 more to go next week.
Yeah.
The title Dance of Dragons.
Yeah, I saw the preview. I'm excited.
I didn't watch the preview.
Well, there you go.
I don't like to watch previews.
I like to watch previews. That's how we found out about Sir Barristan.
Okay, but
through the preview, and then we were able to actually talk about it realistically on the show.
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't like previews for movies and stuff. It's just such a small segment. I prefer to watch it.
This is a show. It's not a movie.
Yeah,
I mean, and we know we feel like we know what's going to happen. We feel like we have a better grip on it. So.
That's true. All right, so we'll be back, or at least I'll be back. We'll see if you have a baby.
I better be back.
Yeah, stay in there, Henry. 2 more weeks.
Cross your leg.
That's right. All right, so I'm Ben DiBono.
I'm Ben Kirkland.
And we'll be back next week with Sci-Fi Christian. Goodbye.